For many today, hooking up with random people for anonymous sex is a symbol of progress. Gone are the repressed days when we were shamed for our bodies or told to ignore our desires. With apps designed specifically for finding random hookups and birth control that is actually effective, access to sex has never been easier or safer. This, many say, is about as good as it gets. You can have sex whenever you want without any consequences. That sounds pretty good, right? The problem, of course, is that it's a lie. And what more and more people are realizing today is that hookup culture is not a sign of progress. It's a recipe for loneliness, abuse, and a degraded sense of self-worth. While it may seem abundantly obvious to Christians that hookup culture is a path that we never want to go down, I think it's important in our culture, if we are to be evangelical, to spend a few minutes understanding the allure it has for some. What is it that is so appealing about having random sex, and why will it never actually fulfill its promises? As I see it, it comes down to three things: emotional protection, fun, and freedom. There's nothing quite like no strings attached, right? Friends with benefits is every guy's dream, they say. You get all the physical stuff without any of the emotional responsibility of having to care for someone. Even for girls, it's seen as a protection against having your heart broken. With no attachments, there's no way to get hurt, right? Except someone always gets hurt. How could they not? As much as people want to say that it's without emotion, we are human beings, and sex is a powerful, intimate encounter. At some point, it has to dawn on everyone that if you are just using other people for a good time, then others are using you for a good time. What does it do to a person to be treated as nothing more than a means of someone else's pleasure? Just a number, just a body to be used and discarded. It may feel empowering when we're using others, but it feels horrible when we're cast aside, when we realize that there is not only no depth to a relationship, there isn't even passion. The moment it's done, you're left alone or even kicked out, treated like trash to be thrown away. Yeah, I'm done with you now. You can leave. I don't want to see you anymore. And that's kind of the best case scenario. In dealing with random people, it is not unheard of to have physical or emotional abuse, situations when real, lasting damage can be done. I don't care how stoic you are, there will always be an emotional toll when it comes to sex. Even when you try to take the emotion out of it, something can still sting. But it's fun, isn't it? It's not meant to be good for us. It's something we do while we're young and we'll grow out of it. It's a thrill. It's a rush like no other. Meeting someone new, putting on the riz, having a wild night with a story to tell later, that's what it's really about, right? No doubt there is an appeal to that. With random hookups, every encounter is a new adventure. There's something to discover. Because it's just one night, you can be whomever you want. Try something new. Let your desires run wild. Admittedly, that is probably exciting. But for how long? How many times can you have a single encounter with a random person before the thrill wears off and it becomes routine? If all there is one night, how much satisfaction can there really be? For me, it's like eating candy. We all have cravings for sugar sometimes and get a rush from eating a big bag of it. We love candy. Until we don't. Until the rush wears off really fast, crashes us back to reality, and we realize that we need food with actual substance. Ultimately, what we desire is far greater than what some cheap thrill can offer. There is no denying that a random hookup comes as a thrill, but when there is nothing to build on, no depth to the relationship, the feeling is ultimately fleeting. To say that hookup culture offers a fun experience may be true, but it will never bring us joy, and it will never satisfy us in a lasting way. It may be fun at first, but it will always leave us wanting more. Okay, you say, but there's still the biggest reason that people seek out random sex, which is that it is an unmatched sense of freedom. For centuries, religions have told people that sex should be relegated to marriage only. We've been told that we should be ashamed of our bodies, ashamed of our desires. But why? Over the past century, people have begun to wake up from religion, to cast off these rules. I'm an adult, you've said. I'm free to do anything I want. As long as you find a consenting adult, I'm free to live out my wildest dreams. On the surface, this sounds great. Freedom is a good value, one that even God wants us to have, and no one can deny that removing all social rules and seeking after one's desires is a sense of freedom. Doing whatever you want, whenever you want, gives us a sense of empowerment that we are in control. But if you stop to think about it for a second, doing whatever we want, whenever we want, is a pretty deficient view of freedom. It gives us more choices, sure, but it says nothing about the quality of those choices. Quick example. Let's say that two people are in a desert about to die of thirst. Person A is offered 5 options: salt water, rancid milk, bleach, gasoline, and rubbing alcohol, while person B is offered 1 option: pure water. Who is more free? For all those quickly jumping to option A because there are 4 more options, think about what you're really saying. Not a single one of those options is going to save that person's life. They're going to die if they drink any one of those things. Is that freedom? Are they really free, or are they trapped in a horrible situation with lots of bad choices? Freedom cannot simply be about the quantity of our choices. It must consider the quality as well. Being truly free means having the ability to do what will actually bring us goodness, what fulfills us as a person and leads us to become who we were created to be. The ability to hook up with someone whenever we want is not true freedom because it degrades us. It cheapens our dignity and traps us in unfulfilling cycles. The reality is that hookup culture leads to anything but freedom. Because random encounters never fully satisfy, people must keep looking for more and more and more. So many get trapped in a cycle of false hope, disappointment, and dependence. Studies have shown that hookup culture actually leads to tangible psychological distress and long-term issues in forming relationships. People get caught thinking that the only way to feel intimacy is by hooking up, which never really satisfies, which causes them to reach out for more hookups. This doesn't sound like freedom at all. And if we're honest with ourselves, it doesn't sound very fun or safe either. As someone who was once in college, I understand the allure of this sort of culture. It's portrayed in TV and movies as the ultimate experience of adulthood, a pure rush of passion. When you're around tons of attractive people who treat random physical hookups as normal, it can be very tempting to give in to this culture. But just remember, it's a lie. It's a lie. It will never be able to meet your expectations, and it will never truly satisfy you. As human beings, we crave intimacy. We crave connection. We want to be seen by another person and feel like we matter to them. At its best, sex is a selfless act of surrender to another person, a gift that draws us closer together in love. We should all want to experience something like this, but we'll never find it by cheapening the experience. We'll never get there by taking shortcuts. You might get a quick thrill, but it won't last. You may keep your emotions at bay for a moment, but it will eventually leave you feeling empty and gross. You might enjoy the liberating feeling of being in control until you realize that you are really not at all, that you're just a product of the system that wants to use you. I hope that you can really hear what I'm saying here. I'm not just some prude priest that thinks that sex is bad or doesn't understand what it's all about. Trust me, I get it. I get the attraction this culture has because I was deeply tempted by it for so long. The argument I'm making is not that sex is bad. It's that hookup culture isn't the way to go. It promises what it cannot fulfill, and it will always hurt you and leave you wanting more. The momentary feeling of bliss is not worth the shame, distrust, and emotional scars that will last long after you're done. If you want love, then seek real love. Love that is self-sacrificial, mutual, committed, and honest. Seek what will truly satisfy and not just what is easy.